Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in English. I'm Martha.
And I'm Bob. Today we're going to talk about something that affects all of us every single day: how we get around the city, transportation in Chicago.
That's right, and Bob and I are perfect for this topic because we have completely different approaches to getting around. Bob, why don't you tell our listeners about your transportation situation?
Sure, I'm definitely a car person. I drive everywhere, to work, to meet friends, to the grocery store, you name it. I've had my car for about 5 years now, and I honestly can't imagine living without it.
And I'm completely the opposite. I don't own a car at all. I rely entirely on public transportation, the CTA trains and buses, plus walking and occasionally biking or taking ride shares.
For our listeners who might not be familiar, CTA stands for Chicago Transit Authority. They run all the public trains and buses in the city. Martha, what's a typical day like for you using public transportation?
Well, let me walk you through my morning routine. I live in Lincoln Park, so I walk about 8 minutes to the Fullerton Red Line station. The Red Line goes straight downtown, so I can get to my office in the Loop in about 25 minutes.
Right.
And during that time, I can read, listen to music, catch up on emails, or just people watch. After work, depending on what I'm doing, I might take the Brown Line to meet friends in Lincoln Square, or a bus to go grocery shopping, or just walk if the weather's nice.
That sounds so different from my experience. I just hop in my car, turn on a podcast or music, and drive wherever I need to go. No waiting, no walking to stations. But let's talk about costs. I'm really curious about this. What do you spend on transportation each month, Martha?
My monthly CTA pass costs $105, and that gives me unlimited rides on all trains and buses for the entire month. Sometimes I'll take an Uber or Lyft if I'm running late or going somewhere inconvenient, so maybe another $30 or $40 a month on rideshares.
Wow, that's really economical. Let me think about my monthly expenses. My car payment is $350, insurance is about $250, gas is usually around $120 depending on how much I drive.
And parking?
Oh, right. Parking downtown can be a nightmare. I pay about $15 whenever I park downtown for work meetings, and street parking in busy neighborhoods can be $20 to $30 for just a few hours. Plus, I had to buy a residential parking permit for my neighborhood. That's $25 a year.
So you're probably spending close to $800 a month on transportation, not including maintenance and repairs.
Yeah, and don't remind me about repairs. I just spent $1,200 on new tires and brake work last month. But you know what? I still think it's worth it for the convenience. Speaking of which, let's talk about technology. Do you use apps to help with your commute?
Oh, absolutely. The CTA has their own app called Ventra that shows real-time arrival information for buses and trains. It's super helpful. I can see exactly when the next Red Line train is coming, so I know if I should hurry or if I have time to grab a coffee.
That's really useful. I use Google Maps all the time for traffic and to find parking spots. There's also this app called Spot Hero that lets you reserve parking spaces in advance, which is a lifesaver for downtown events.
I also use Transit and City Mapper for trip planning. They combine CTA schedules with walking directions and even show bike share options. And speaking of bikes, that's become a really popular option in Chicago.
Right. I see those blue divvy bikes everywhere now. Have you tried those?
Yes, in summer, I love using Divvy for short trips. You can pick up a bike at one station and drop it off at another. It costs $15 for a day pass or $95 for an annual membership. The Lakefront Trail is amazing for biking, 18 miles along Lake Michigan with no cars.
That sounds really nice, but let's talk about the challenges. Martha, what's the hardest part about not having a car?
Definitely grocery shopping and carrying heavy things. I have to plan carefully and can only buy what I can carry home. Also, getting to certain neighborhoods is tricky. Like if I want to visit a friend in a suburb without good train access, I either need to take multiple buses, which takes forever, or use a rideshare.
That makes sense. And what about seasonal challenges? Chicago winters are brutal.
Oh my goodness, winter is definitely the hardest time. Waiting for buses when it's negative 10 degrees and windy is miserable. And last year, remember that huge snowstorm in February? Several train lines had major delays, and I was stuck at the station for almost an hour.
I remember that storm, but to be honest, driving wasn't much better. I had to dig my car out of 3 feet of snow, and the roads were so icy that what's normally a 20-minute drive took me over an hour.
True, but at least you weren't standing outside in the cold. Although, I have to say, summer has its challenges too. Those underground train stations can get really hot and stuffy, especially during rush hour.
Yeah, and summer traffic can be crazy too, especially with all the construction and street festivals. Sometimes I avoid driving downtown completely in summer. Let's talk about safety. Do you ever feel unsafe using public transportation, especially late at night?
It really depends on the location and time. The red and blue lines run 24 hours, and they're generally pretty safe because there are always other people around, even late at night. But some neighborhoods and certain bus routes I'm definitely more careful about.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm coming home really late from somewhere like Wicker Park or Logan Square, I'll usually take an Uber instead of the train. It costs more, but it's worth it for peace of mind.
That's smart. And rideshares have really changed the transportation landscape in Chicago. How do you find the pricing on Uber and Lyft?
It varies so much. A normal ride from my neighborhood to downtown might be $12 to $15. But during busy times like New Year's Eve or when there's bad weather, surge pricing can make the same ride cost $40 or $50.
Wow, that's a huge difference. I've noticed that too. And don't even get me started on trying to get an Uber after a Cubs game or Lollapalooza.
Exactly. But you know what I love about public transportation? The people watching and the sense of community. I've had some really interesting conversations with fellow commuters, and you really get to see the diversity of Chicago.
That's something I definitely miss. When I'm in my car, I'm in my own little bubble. I'm not interacting with the city in the same way. And I bet you discover new places more often than I do.
Oh, definitely. When you're walking to train stations or waiting for buses, you notice so much more. I've found amazing local coffee shops, bookstores, and restaurants just by exploring different neighborhoods on foot.
And you probably get way more exercise than I do. I literally go from my front door to my car to my destination and back.
That's true. I walk at least a mile every day just getting to and from train stations, plus all the stairs in the L stations. My fitness tracker says I'd climb about 30 flights of stairs on an average day.
30 flights? That's like a built-in workout. But let's talk about rush hour. How do you handle the morning and evening rush on public transit?
I've learned to time it carefully. If I leave my apartment by 7:45, the train isn't too crowded yet. But if I leave after 8:15, it's packed. Sometimes you literally can't get on the first train that comes and have to wait for the next one.
Ugh, that sounds stressful. My rush hour strategy is totally different. I try to leave for work before 7:30 to avoid the worst traffic on Lakeshore Drive and the Kennedy. If I hit traffic, at least I'm comfortable in my car with my music.
But doesn't sitting in traffic stress you out? I'd rather read a book on the train than deal with aggressive drivers and construction delays.
You know what? You have a point.
Sometimes I do get really frustrated in traffic, and the environmental impact is something I've been thinking about more lately too.
Right. When I take the train with 50 or 60 other people, that's so much better for air quality than if we all drove separate cars. Chicago's been working on making public transit even greener, too. They're adding electric buses and solar panels to stations.
That's really cool. Maybe I should try mixing up my transportation more. Like, I could drive to a train station and then take the L downtown to avoid parking costs and traffic.
That's a great idea. Lots of people do that. It's called park and ride. Many L stations in the suburbs have parking lots. And honestly, Bob, there are times I wish I had access to a car, especially for things like going to IKEA or visiting friends who live far from train lines.
Exactly. I think the key is being flexible and using the best option for each situation. For daily downtown commuting, public transit makes a lot of sense. For big shopping trips or visiting family in the suburbs, a car is definitely more practical.
Absolutely. And that's something people can think about no matter what city they live in. What transportation options do you have, and how can you use them most efficiently and affordably?
Martha, this conversation has really opened my eyes. I think I'm going to try taking the red line to work at least once this week, just to experience it again and see how much time and money I could save.
That's awesome. And who knows, maybe I'll finally get around to learning how to drive. There are definitely situations where having that option would be helpful.
Well, listeners, we're really curious to hear from you. What topics would you like to hear conversations about?
Yes, please leave us a comment and tell us.
And if your city has interesting transportation options we haven't talked about, we'd love to learn about those too. Maybe we'll feature your city in a future episode.
Speaking of future episodes, next time we're going to talk about food and dining in Chicago, from deep dish pizza to Italian beef to all the amazing international restaurants. And Bob and I definitely have different eating habits and favorite spots to discuss.
Oh, that's going to be a delicious conversation. Thanks for listening to Conversations in English, everyone. I'm Bob.
And I'm Martha. Until next time, keep exploring your city, no matter how you choose to get around.